Hello again. Welcome to part 2 of The Legend of Spud Murphy by Ian Colfer. Do you remember last time Dad got fed up with all the noise and all the boys in the house, and he decided that the older two boys needed to do something educational, something that got them out of the house? Let's find out what happens next. Marty tried to save us. Remember the last educational hobby, the art classes? I was sick for days. That was your own fault, said Mum. I only had a drink of water. You are not supposed to drink the water that people use to wash their brushes. Dad was thinking. What about the library? He said finally. Dad looks very pleased with himself for that idea, doesn't he? What about it? I said, trying to sound casual, but my stomach was churning. You both could join. Reading, it's perfect. How can you cause trouble reading a book? And it's educational, added Mum. Yes, of course it's educational too, Dad agreed. How is it educational? I asked, terrified by the idea. I'd much rather be outside riding a horse than inside reading about one. My mother tousled my hair. Because, Will, sometimes the only horse you can ride is the one in your head. That's the first question I'm going to ask you today, and I would like it if you could email the answer to that one, please. I'll remind you at the end of this. What does Mum mean by that? Sometimes the only horse you can ride is the one in your head. Why don't you pause the video so you can have a think about it? Sometimes the only horse you can ride is the one in your head. What does that mean? I had no idea what that meant. Don't make us join the library, Marty begged. It's too dangerous. Dangerous? How could a library be dangerous? Dad asked. It's not the library, Marty whispered. It's the librarian. Mrs. Murphy, said Mum. She's a lovely old lady. The problem with grown-ups is that they only see what's on the outside, but kids know the real truth. People forget to be on their best behaviour around kids because nobody believes a word we say. Every kid in our town knew about Mrs. Murphy. She was one of those people that kids steer clear of, like Miss White, the teacher with the evil eye, or old Ned Sawyer, the tramp with the dribbling dog. She's not a lovely old lady, I said. She's a total nut. Will, that's a terrible thing to say. But she is, Mum. She hates kids, and she used to be a tracker in the army, tracking kids from enemy countries. Now you're being ridiculous. Have a look at that picture. I think that must be a picture of Mrs. Murphy. But I wonder if the picture is from Marty's point of view. Because look at her. She's carrying a gun and it's got a bayonet attached, a pointy sword on the end of it. She's wearing army camouflage gear. She's got a teddy under her arm. That doesn't really make much sense, does it? Don't know why there's a teddy under her arm. But what do you think? Do you think it sounds likely that Mrs. Murphy used to be a tracker in the army and she tracked kids from enemy countries? Does that sound realistic? She has a Spud gun under her desk, added Marty. A gas-powered one that takes an entire potato in the barrel. She shoots kids with it if they make a noise in the library. That's why we call her Spud Murphy. Did you know that Spud was a slang word for a potato. My mother thought this was all very funny. A spud gun? You'll say anything to avoid reading a book. It's true, Marty shouted. Do you know Ugly Frank from number 47? My mother tried to look stern. That means very serious and a little bit cross. You shouldn't call poor Frank ugly. Well, how do you think he got that way? Spud Murphy spudded him. Mum waved her two hands as if annoying birds were flapping around her ears. I've heard enough. You two are going to the library for the afternoon and that's it. We'll make some sandwiches. We stood in the kitchen, glumly. Sandwiches wouldn't be much use against Spud Murphy and her gas-powered spud gun. Okay, that's the end of chapter 1. So we've met the family, we've found out about Spud Murphy, and we've learned what the educational activity is that Dad has decided upon. So 2 questions. One of them I'm going to remind you of. That was the question. What do you think Mum means when she says, sometimes the only horse you can ride is the one in your head? Could you send me an email and let me know what you decide Mum might mean? It would be great if you could put that into a full sentence answer. So you begin your sentence answer with, I think Mum means, and then you tell me what it is she says. Right, question 2 has got 2 parts to it. The first part of question 2 is, why don't the boys want to go to the library? Why do you think that is? Can you imagine yourself in their situation? If you were the boys, why wouldn't you want to go to that library? The one that they've just told us about. That's the first part of question 2. The second part is, do you believe their story about the librarian having a spud gun that she uses to shoot at people? Remember they said that's how Ugly Frank came to be ugly, because she spudded him. Look, I think that must be the spud gun in the picture there. Look, can you see she's firing potatoes? Do you believe the boys about the librarian and what she does? If you do believe them, can you tell me why you believe them? And if you don't believe them, please tell me why not. Okay, again, I would like a full sentence answer, please. So perhaps you could start with your sentence. I believe the boys when they talk about Mrs. Murphy because, or I don't believe the boys when they talk about Mrs. Murphy because. Okay? I look forward to getting your emails and reading your ideas. Thank you very much. Bye for now.